Yo, what is up? Hope you guys are all having a good day so far. Mine's going pretty good. Just been up since early this morning working on a mastering project for a client of mine. But it's time to jump into some sound design. Today in the sound lab, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this crazy screaming bass. And this is what it sounds like. Alright guys, before we get into making this sound, I mentioned before that I do audio engineering work, and I am taking on new mixing and mastering clients. So if anybody is interested in mixing and mastering, definitely hit me up and I can get back to you with rates and we can work something out. I'd love to work with you. But anyways, let's jump into Faceplant here. The main things today that are going to be affecting our sound is this Combs filter, as well as our post-processing. We're not going to be doing any FM today either. We're going to be doing things a little different. Trying to keep it different for each tutorial, cover different things about Faceplant. So let's initialize the patch here. And the first thing we need to do is create our wavetable. We're going to stick with just a sine. Nice clean sine wave. And now we're going to add an analog. And instead of keeping it out of the group and adding this phase like we were before, we're going to drag the analog into the group. And now we can hear our saw. But we're going to switch to a sine today. The next thing we're going to do is shift the harmonics up. And add a little pitch bend there. This is going to be another sound that I really utilize the pitch bending. So the next thing I did was jump right into the effects section, and I added a Combs filter and dropped that down to about 142. You can also right click and punch in values. Alright, so the next thing I did was jump into the modulators window, and I created an LFO, and I set it to sync as usual. And I moved it to 1616, which is basically a bar. I opened the LFO editor. Sorry if I'm rushing through this a little bit today, guys. I've got a lot to do today. This is going to be a rather quick tutorial, but I promise you the sound is well worth it. So I made a little shape like this. Of course, we don't hear the effect yet because we haven't started our routing. So you can close the LFO editor. And I routed this to the sync of our analog. Now to really get the effect we want here, we have to move our sync up. So as we start moving this up, we see more and more copies of this waveform. And we're going to shoot for about around 3. We can really hear the effect of the sync there. The number is important, and I believe the exact number I had was 3.015. And you guys can feel free to mess around with different sync settings, but this was the number that I liked the best. So now, when we start to turn this up, this orange dial down on our LFO, we're going to really start to hear the effect we want. Now when I turn the combs off, yeah, so we can see that the combs is really adding a lot to the sound. Without. The next effect I added was a distortion. And I just drove it up to about 14. And I just really fatted up the sound. So without the effects, with the effects. Then add a little pitch bend. The last thing I did in Faceplant here, before we jump into Serum Effects, was I held this LFO, and then you can hold Option, and click and drag, and that will copy it over and give you the same LFO. I then routed this to the Combs filter and dropped it back -4. And this is just gonna move the frequency of this Combs filter at the rate of this LFO. With, without. And add a little pitch bend again. And you can tell we're really close to that sound that we're going for. So I'm going to close faceplant here. All I did in this first serum effects was throw on a filter, set it to normal MG low 12, and then I just have the same shape from faceplant. I have it set to 1/2 and off. And then I just have this thrown on the cutoff going all the way up. Resonancy 14%, drive all the way up, mix all the way up. And this is just going to add a little bit of tone to the sound. And now we're getting even closer to that sound. So I added another serum effects because I wanted to add a Combs filter as well. So on this filter, I chose miscellaneous Combs. You can double click, punch in the value, and now we have a totally different sound. That real industrial metal sound we're going for. I created the same LFO, mapped it to the cutoff, and set that to about -4. Or actually, I believe it was -3. Yep, -3. Resonancy 70%, and mix all the way up. Next thing I added was this hyperdimension. Mix 4%, low size, high mix, 2%, 25. And last but not least, this EQ. And that's kind of adding a hollow, even more industrial tone to the sound. And frequency is down at 465. I just have this Q up at 60 and the gain at 8. And both of these are set to bell curve. Frequency 757, Q60, gain about 9.9. So that second Q is a little bit higher. Make sure you turn on note latch, so we can hear the effect of our serum effects. And that's going to be it for serum effects. So I will close this, and to top the sound off, I just threw on a fat rack. It's this rack fattener. You can probably find it on Google. And this was the final addition to the sound. Alright, and to get the lower pitch bass that I had in the example in the beginning, all I did here was turn the sync percentage down to about 19%. You can even go all the way up to 39. And that actually might be the original sound I had. But you can drop the sync lower. And turn the harmonics up too. Whole new sound. Mess around with it, guys. Yeah, so I really hope you guys like that sound. I actually used it in a track recently, so I'm almost sad to be giving it away. But of course, as always, make the sound your own, guys. Looking forward to hearing what you guys come up with. Let me know what you think of the sound in the comments. Make sure you click that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with phase plant tutorials. Alright, peace out.